You are listening to the Mohua Show, where it's all about celebrating the junoon among changemakers and their journey.
Most agencies are run by people who are too old. They don't actually understand the Gen Z consumer. Digital is very important, but traditional still does the work.
What does zero budget actually mean in the age of paid influencers and billion-dollar ad spend?
I think most buzzwords are fluff, actually. Amongst the ones that you said, I think AI is the one to stay. The rest of it is, just coinage. The biggest challenge is not the brief, but actually understanding between the briefs. Most Indian brands. There isn't that much inclusivity, as should be.
I think things are changing, and this also will be tackled in time. She's one of the youngest women leaders in Indian advertising, a Bengali creative force raised on culture and courage. And she's taking on legacy patriarchy and the big ad boys, one bold campaign at a time. So, welcome to today's episode where we are talking to Rashi Ray, Director of Response India, an iconic 40-year-old agency and co founder of the Fierce and Fearless Zero Budget Agency. Quite a name there. She's been awarded by Kayuri's, featured by Social Samosa, and called to speak at IIM Kolkata. But today she's with us to talk real. Why most brands still don't get Gen Z, whether AI can ever beat a good gut feeling, and what it takes to be a woman leading in India's old boys ad world. This isn't just a conversation, it's again a masterclass. So let's dive in. Welcome, Rashi, in today's episode.
Hi, Mohua. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Thank you so much. I have this huge connection with Response that is beyond work. It is, it is from my
Goes
heart.
beyond my time.
Beyond your time, yes.
Yes.
So, you're a woman, a Bengali, and a creative director. Three identities not always dominant in boardrooms. So just be honest, right? How often have you had to prove you're more than just a legacy hire?
Um, when I was much younger, much younger meaning when I was in my early 20s, at that time I used to feel a little intimidated going into a boardroom. And then I just decided to ignore that feeling. I just went in, did my work, and came out. And now it doesn't bother me anymore.
Were there any hard moments where you felt that,
I think it
you
was
needed
more
to
in
press?
my head and less on the outside.
So you've stepped into your father's legacy with Response India, but you've clearly carved your own path. So what was the transition like, for you personally and professionally, having had worked, with Ram in the past, and I consider him to be one of my mentors. So tell me a little bit about your transition.
I right after college, I began Zero Budget Agency, where my father, he was my co-founder. And he always believed that if you can begin a company, you know, make sure you're getting business and it's running, you'll be prepared to, at some point, to run a bigger company. He never encouraged having a job. Because he said, that doesn't prepare you for the multiple things that you need to be able to handle, and you need to be able to handle it quite quickly and at a young age. So there was a long preparation, if you really ask me, from the time I was 18 till about 30, I was already running a business. So the transition didn't really feel much like a transition. It felt, more like the next day. I think if you're mentally prepared, you're able to handle it.
You're based in Kolkata, city known for art than advertising, So how has growing up in Bengal shaped the way, you think about branding and storytelling? Considering I'm a Bengali and my sensibilities are still stuck, with the way I grew up, and advertising and selling isn't really a part of the sensibility of being a traditional Bengali.
No, but the beauty of being Bengali is that Bengalis, love to have fun, love food, um, just love hearing stories, and we use all of that when we are working. We hardly ever sell. No, we are looking for the next story to tell whenever we are working on a Bengali brand. And clients here are pretty receptive. They expect that kind of storytelling also.
Which is fantastic, which is
Yeah.
amazing to hear, So often people say that advertising is dead, is dead. Your work says otherwise. So do you think traditional advertising still matters in India, or are we really chasing the digital, for the sake of it?
I think that every touch point matters when you're a brand. So Every new touch point also matters. Digital is very important, but traditional still does the work. So when you have a front page press ad, it's still giving you stature, which a fleeting Instagram ad doesn't. And a regular Instagram ad is also important.
So you co-founded Zero Budget Agency. It's a very bold name in a budget-obsessed world. So what does zero budget actually mean in the age of paid influencers and billion-dollar ad spends and everything that's so large? Uh, why did you think of this name, Zero Budget?
So zero was a little ahead of its time. When we started, digital was not big. It just existed. And the idea was to use digital as much as you can because the media spend is zero. So that's where the name came from, Zero Budget Agency. To encourage you to work on ideas that actually work with idea power and not spend. But of course, over time, digital has become more expensive. So the name still stands. We're still looking at zero-based work, which is how to make you spend less and still get effective advertising.
So advertising is flooded with buzzwords, performance marketing, purpose-driven storytelling, Gen Z, this, AI, that. And what's that one trend you think is like total fluff? And you need to call that
Love.
out.
Love. um, Love. I think most buzzwords are fluff, actually. Amongst the ones that you said, I think AI is the one to stay.
Yeah,
The rest of it is, just coinage. Everything is still words and pictures.
absolutely. Everything is just
Yeah.
words and pictures. So everyone talks about big ideas, but very few people talk about big rejections. So tell us about a campaign that completely flopped, and what you learned from it. Because everyone, when they come onto podcasts and they really go out there and give interviews, they talk about all the wins. So let's hear about the rejections from you, Rashi.
It's actually where we've had a pretty good run. We've not had too many rejections. We've had, I would say, about 9 out of 10 campaigns work. One or two don't. They're nothing very special to really talk about. Also, like we recently did a campaign with for a real estate client. Um, it was a bit esoteric, very designer looking. It did not work because the market could not understand it. Uh, it's very difficult to explain it because you're not seeing the campaign right now. But other than that, I think we've had a fairly good run. We made that up also. We launched a very direct offer campaign after that, and it just worked.
And that
So
worked.
that yeah. So that's the thing. When it's not working, you pull out and you quickly turn something around.
Yeah, you
So that's
gather
why you won't
yourself
hear of
together
it.
to do something that's more direct. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
So you work
Yeah.
with everyone, from Ambuja to Dabur. What's the most creatively challenging brief you've ever tackled, and how did you crack it? I
You're
would love to
asking
hear
some
this from you.
challenging questions. We work with a very wide range of clients, as you know, from startups to the largest corporates, very new businesses to very old businesses. So we learn to tune ourselves to what the client asks for. Sometimes it's just one person, sometimes it's 20 people in a boardroom. So we figure that out. They're all challenging because the biggest challenge is not the brief, but actually understanding between the brief. That what you're saying is not really what you're asking for. And that is what we're really good at, and that sometimes is very challenging because we keep going back and forth till we
Finally
decide on
crack it.
something. Yeah, every client is challenging.
Of course. You handle brands from steel to sweets, Tata Steel to Haldiram. So how do you keep your team switching gears so effortlessly between such diverse worlds? So and you've also worked closely with media powerhouses like Zee Bangla, ABP. How do you market something like a media to an audience that's already so media savvy? Like everybody knows everything now.
So currently we're handling a brand called Aishamar, which was earlier part of Times of India. Now they've separated. They run autonomously now. It's quite challenging, but it's great fun because they're very good clients. Uh, they do what you were asking earlier is they love good Bengali work. They really understand it. And being a media house, you're able to print ads on your own. So I mean, imagine how lucky you are. You don't have to actually spend on media.
Yeah,
So
wonderful.
yeah, the question that you asked is how does the team take it? They love it. So what we realized is if every day is different, they're fine. Whenever it happens to be three consecutive campaigns in the same industry, then there's fatigue.
That's the
Uh,
reason we are all agency people, Rashi.
yeah,
We love the diversity, and I can't imagine working in one industry. I mean, I would totally be so dull then, and I would not be motivated at all to work. So
yeah, and I
we
think
are
learnings from one industry really helps the other also. Yeah, and
absolutely.
we are similar in that manner.
Yeah, me too. So Gen Z is a totally different beast, right? So you work with a lot of young consumers. What's something that you think most brands just don't get about them, and how well do brands actually understand Gen Z? I mean, it's a new term, and I'm beginning to learn about it.
I can say something that's not so politically correct here. Most agencies are run by people who are too old, so they don't actually understand the Gen Z consumer. And the Gen Z consumer in about 10 years, every second rupee spent will be by a Gen Z consumer. So imagine how important a bucket that is. So yeah, people don't understand it. That's something we're good at, which has helped us.
Which is
We
very
have a young
important in the messaging, especially.
Yeah, because you have to in messaging and also the Gen Z is far more visual, quick, and it's not that traditional doesn't work. It does. It's just how you portray a brand. You have to connect with it.
So let's talk about AI. AI is creeping into everything, design, copy,
Yeah,
even campaign strategy. So how are you and your team really using it, and where do you still draw the line?
we've been very early adopters of AI.
Okay.
We use a lot of AI in our visual work because I think visual AI tools have now progressed to a point where you can work with it. It's like it's like using a much superior Photoshop.
Okay.
At the time, Photoshop was also new. Before that, you would take a picture or draw and do it by hand, and then Photoshop made all of that easier. Now
Yes.
AI makes the thinking into visual much easier. It's not easy, because writing a appropriate prompt and then working with that image is actually quite a time-consuming job. But we've been able to crack it. We've done fair bit of campaigns that we've launched using AI that no one could tell. So I think that something is we're doing right with AI. It does. I think that younger people using AI, it's a little bit of a challenge because they use it to think rather than as a tool. So we try to train our team to use it as a tool rather than depend on it, which is where the challenge is,
Yeah,
using
absolutely.
it.
So let's talk diversity, right? Do you think that the Indian ad world has actually really become more inclusive, or is it just lip service? Because I had a conversation with someone and they were saying that, I mean, really inclusion is still, a far-fetched dream. Though I think response has always been very inclusive, but I would like to hear your take on this from the Indian ad
We
world.
we we are inclusive. I think many brands don't want to be because they're scared of how the consumers will react, or if they might lose a certain type of consumer. So, which is most Indian brands. So there isn't that much inclusivity as should be.
But I think things are changing, and this also will be tackled in time.
Yeah, I mean, it is changing, but
Yeah,
it's very difficult to change mindsets.
yeah, true. You won awards, built brands, broken molds. So, what's been your proudest moment so far, and what's that one thing you still feel that you still need to prove?
I think still need to prove. Well, I look at every day, one day at a time, and I think every day our business should grow. That's our that's what I look forward to. Not so much the awards, if you really ask me. That if you notice, we don't enter too many awards, I think, because the sanctity of it is reduced.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The value of it is reduced. We like awards and merit. So
You worked on some iconic Bengali campaigns, and what is it about this region storytelling that you wish that the national industry would really learn from?
I wish that the way we are able to use Bengali nuances. small words, little moments that people feel, rather than it being logical. I wish that national brands were able to do more storytelling like that. They have the opportunity to do that. Because when you're running a national campaign that's, running across states, it's very difficult to pick up on that one nuance that will connect with, you know, completely diverse set of people,
Yeah.
which we're able to do regionally, which is why when national campaigns don't really work regionally because they expect a certain level of personal feeling when they're seeing a brand, which doesn't happen through national campaigns. I'm sure one could. You just have to be able to find or thread those ideas that connect with a diverse set of people.
Yeah, it's that emotion, that one word that'll, stick with most people. Yes, of course, the nuances can be very difficult because in a country as diverse as ours.
Yeah.
So, you shared platforms with Josh Talks, IIM Kolkata, Women's Web. What drives you to keep stepping out of just agency work and into public conversations? So for me, this is fascinating because I've seen you since you were such a young girl. So I really want to know about how do you do this?
They've all happened organically. They've happened over, there have been gaps. It's not a continuous thing that I do. But sometimes it's nice to go and meet people and talk to people who we never see otherwise. Juice talks happened organically. I think they were uh, looking to grow. So they were looking for speakers. IIM, I had done a talk for one of their STEM programs where they had reached out because they wanted to include communication in that program. And they were
Okay.
looking for a younger person to talk to the students so the students would connect with a younger professional. So they've been organic. You know that we keep in touch with a lot of people. So
Of course,
yeah, so
absolutely.
it happened.
10 years from now, what do you want your legacy to be, Rashi? Not just as a leader, but as a woman, a creative, and a Bengali storyteller.
10 years from now, I think that advertising will completely change. There
Okay.
won't be any advertising won't be in any uh, the form it is in now. I don't think it may not even be a service business in 10 years. And I want to be able to pioneer whatever it is that it will be. Like I think the business will turn into more, you have to own the IP that you're selling for advertising. It'll be more content led and much less a service for a brand. And that is something that needs to be found and created to be for the industry to survive. Otherwise, it's not a very growing industry today.
Yes, and
Yeah,
that's really,
yeah.
really sad. But we have hope, and I'm so proud to have you on today's episode with me, Rashi, because I started such a major part of my career with Response, and it still remains home for me. No Kolkata visit is ever missed, without stepping into the office, and very
I
rarely. I
know.
mean, last trip I couldn't come, but it's always on my agenda to
I was
come
also
meet all of you.
looking forward to talking to you today because we missed our last meeting.
Yes, we missed our last meeting, and
Yeah.
I mean, Response will remain forever in my heart. As the place where I grew up. And thank you for taking out the time. Wishing all the best, and thank you again.
Thank you so much.
From Bengali roots to bold billboards, Rashi Ray has shown us what it means to lead with culture, courage, and clarity. She's redefined Indian advertising by proving that data doesn't kill creativity, that zero budget doesn't mean zero impact, that being a woman in a room doesn't mean being quiet. If there's one thing to take away from this episode, it's this: legacy is not about what you inherit, it's about what you do with it. Rashi, thank you for sharing your truth with us and for proving that the future of Indian advertising is not just bright, but brilliantly bold. Thank you.